that's Ralph Turco.
Ralph Turco, who was the last man on the grid in 36th place. The London-based Brazilian has gone down. That was at Melbourne. Meanwhile, look at this lot at the front. Oh, Buchan repays the compliment there to Dan Linfoot.
Dan Linfoot left in the room. It's a classic Donington overtake. He's out. Hang on, safety car's out. They're sitting up. Yeah.
And that was Shaky Burt was really quick to realise that, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he did it mid-corner, which sometimes is... And this is Ralph Turco, I think, looking at the helmet.
So Turco's obviously, is this the Melbourne loop? Yes, he's come down the hill into the Melbourne hairpin and lost it coming down there. So it looks like the problems then for Ralph Turco. He rides bike number 45. He's the SPK City Kawasaki.
He's lost it quite early on because you can see the white marks that the footrests have dug across the tarmac and the grass to where the bike was laying before they picked it up. So that's a little bit of a mess. Look, they're struggling to find anything they can get hold of to lift the thing out of the gravel. They use a strap to put around the front wheel or anything solid really to lift it. Once you start pushing it just from the back or with the handlebars, it tends to dig itself in.
Notice at the back of the pack, now that Rolf isn't there, James, Jakob Smerts, who was very confident about the possibility of a good result, even starting from the back on the Lloyd's British Motor Rapido Ducati, because he loves this track, he feels the bike's working well, but having that problem that took him into the garage before the start of the race meant that the man from the Czech Republic on bike number 96 is right at the back of the pack. Watching number 16, David Johnson, going through there as Ralph Turco is carried off by the very attentive medics and marshals. And
you think that Melbourne is a slow corner, and it is indeed quite a slow corner, first or second gear. But
a fast approach.
Well, it's a fast approach, and even though it's slow, you're still doing 40, 45 miles an hour, and a lot quicker than that going in, so... You know,
and the fast guys, James, they're kind of touching 160 over the crest before they hit the brake, in fourth gear before they hit the brakes, which is fairly terrifying speed to be doing at that point.
If you're going to jump off.
Yeah. So Ralph Turco is conscious, talking to the marshals, so the amiable Brazilian sounds like he's okay. I mentioned that we could see David Johnson going through on bike number 16. He's in 32nd place. Where's Jenny Tinmouth on the Honda Fireblade?
She's out, I think.
Because she's out. She looks to be out of the race, according to our screen, with Jakob Smerts, the last man on track in 33rd.
She's there.
No, there's Jenny. She's behind Jakob Smerts. Okay. Don't know how that came about. So Jakob Smerts has made up a place then, with Jenny just being the Cheshire lass from Ellesmere Port just behind him there. First factory lady rider in the British Superbike paddock. So we're on the fourth lap of 20, gives us a chance to get our breath back. Look at that, 18th place. Brock Parker has just found out how vigorous
competitive it is
a first lap could be in BSP. Because I thought he'd done really well in qualifying, the former World Super Sport runner-up on 2 occasions.
Yep, remember, brand new bike. I know people, if you're uninitiated, would think that a brand new bike's got to be better than an old bike, but not the case. If it's a brand new ground up, everything new, geometry, electronics, everything, it takes a little bit of time to get used to it, get the data, the crew need time to get used to how the bike works. So you would expect the Yamaha to get better from here on in.
So the crowd's basking in the sun here, the perfect Easter sunshine, as the anxious faces on the pit, relaxing chewing gum, Alex Ferguson style. Keep an eye on proceedings out here. This is James Ellison's team, of course, and Ellison, that move through the first turn. Aye. James Witt, that was truly as aggressive as I've seen James Ellison ever be.
I think he's decided that that's what he's got to be this year, with a field like this, and he's probably got a point, especially early on.
The intriguing thing for all that we've got this fantastic field, James, the guys who qualified front four, Kianari, Ellison, Byrne, Brooks, they are the strong men for the last couple of seasons really in British Superbikes.
And they've got the experience, yeah, you're right. Many of them on the same bike as they were on last year as well.
Yeah. Dropping down the hill towards the hairpin then. The pace car is going to turn in at this point. Shaky Byrne can govern what happens next. just about to complete the 4th lap of 20. It's been a pretty steady 3rd and 4th lap for the pack. Well, now it's all going to burst into a cacophony of sound as they come round Goddard and hit the Wheatcroft straight with the defending champion Shaky Byrne at the front. James Ellison looking for an early move as they head down towards Redgate, and Shaky Byrne drops a leg to ensure that doesn't happen. The PBM Kawasaki's running 1st and 3rd, and look at Buchan there in 4th place.
Look at Ellison.
Oh, again, he surges through as they go through Hollywood, and the dives down the Craner curves at the front. Last lap, Jenny Tinmouth's gone out. She's overcooked it straight away, coming out of Goddard's, that, and gone down.
Ellison, very brave at Hollywood there, top of Craner curves, and it's not an easy place to do that. You need so much confidence with how much grip you've got, and it just, there hasn't been the grip all weekend, so brave move.
Danny Buchan, 6'3" on a, makes a move on a man virtually a foot shorter than him, Scotsman Stuart Easton. That's not fair. That's David and Goliath.
He speaks highly of you.
And this was Jenny Tinmouth, and she, James, it never even high-sided her, bless her, so hopefully she'll be okay.
Yeah, that's an indication of just how easy these things are to get wrong. It really is easy to do that.
So an undignified exit for a ladyship. And Danny Buchan, well, he said that he was aiming for, like top 10, perhaps top half dozen, or even a podium. And right now he's running in 3rd place for B. Weiser Kawasaki, ahead of Easton, Linfoot and Hickman.
Knowing Danny and speaking to him this weekend, this is exactly where he would expect to be himself.
Completing the 5th lap of 20, exactly quarter race distance. This, the first race of the year for the MCE Insurance British Superbike Championship in association with Pirelli. Fastest lap for James Ellison, 1:30.013.
And he's actually stretching Shane Byrne a little bit. He's having some of this, is James Ellison.
James Westmoreland is the lap record holder on a build-based BMW last year, 1:29.67. And look at that pack dropping downhill. It's just, you go back to, say, 20th place, you've got Lee Jackson there, just behind Josh Waters and Brock Parks. I mean, this is ludicrously quality field.
It is really, really good riders down there, like you say, 19th, 20th and 20th position.
Ian Hutchinson, who's here to chip away at getting familiar with his bike, is running short a little behind them in 23rd place ahead of Jack Kennedy, and Jason O'Halloran on one of the Works Fireblades in 25th place, the Australian.
Jason struggled, and I really don't know why. His teammate Dan Linfoot's going reasonably well, and Jason always said that he was a really good superbike. I'd ridden him before in Australia. That's McConnell, number 3.
Billy McConnell, the reigning Supersport champion, makes an early exit on the Smiths to BMW. Billy's up, but he'll be pretty peeved with himself there. He was running in 8th place, James, which, to look for the top 10 straight away was where he would want to be, at least. And this may be what happened to Billy. Let's see.
Oh, it's a coppice. Looks like it.
So that was, here's another view.
Look, back of the shot, there, high side early on in Coppice. Yeah.
James, that was a bit of an impact as he came down, and it's not done the bike a lot of good.
Yeah, if you're high side at Coppice, there's always a bit of an impact to put up with there.
So James Ellison and Shaky Byrne just breaking away a bit. Shaky Byrne has set a time of 1:29.5 seconds on the last lap. So Shaky Byrne really getting his act together in some impressive style. And I think that is a new lap record. A new lap record in British Superbikes for Shaky Byrne as he closes the gap on the race leader. 1:29.51 against a 1:29.67 that was the existing lap record. So Shane Byrne really on the pace. Javier Beltran there, the Honda Racing team boss, talking to Jenny Tinmouth in the garage. But this is impressive stuff from Shaky.
It is, as we see Linfoot try and slide up the inside of Easton, and it's Yuichi Kinada that's struggling here, and I really don't know why. He's caught up behind that pack, Hickman, Linfoot, that is just at the back of the crew we've seen there, but not making any inroads, and he's been quicker than anybody else all weekend.
I suppose he's been quicker than anybody else on an empty track, or at least leading the way, usually with Lee Bob Jackson behind him.
Yeah, going quick's one thing, passing people is quite another.
So this group then, Easton, Buchan, Linfoot, Hickman, Chianari latched together. That's through to 7th place, and then the gap back to Josh Brooks, only managing an 8th place ride at the moment in front of his former teammate, the Tyco BMW of Tommy Bridewell. There are those two, number 25 Brooks. reverting to the number he used to use in the World Superbike paddock, ahead of Tommy Bridewell, and Christian Idden making ground on the Bennett Suzuki. Christian Idden, having been desperately unwell with gastroenteritis all weekend, is beginning to recover his strength and his speed. He's up into 10th place for Bennett Suzuki, ahead of Chris Walker and Howie Mainwaring Smart. Cooper in 13th place, Mossy in 14th place. And the last thing Luke Mossy said to me, with that wonderful brashness he has, is I'll be having a portion of this afternoon. But so far it's not as big a portion as he intended it to be. Danny Buchan on the limit, rousing his way onto the straight downhill, but this time surely Linfoot can squeeze through. Oh, the immaculate North Yorkshireman does it, but only just by a whisker past those stuck-out knees.
And I don't think it's over yet, that battle.
No.
Oh!
Where's Danny going? He's gone well wide. He'll lose a couple of places. Just a little bit over-eager to make it go back at the Honda Racing Fireblade, and he drops back behind Hickman.
Unlucky for Buchan there, because Dan Linfoot didn't know he was there, ran it out to the stripe to get a good line in himself and pushed Dan onto the pin, and he couldn't get the bike stopped on that, not as much grip.
And Hickman was very resolute there, 2 6-foot pluses together. He barged his way through, didn't let Danny Buchan take advantage of him into Goddard's, but because of all that happening in front of him, Kianari hasn't been able to take advantage at all and remains in 7th place. Howie Mainwaring Smart, a little disappointed with his performance so far, qualifying 14th, has crashed out. Let's see how.
This is Coppice again. Yeah, he's going in, he's possibly lost the front there, we never saw it, but that would be a front ender, I think.
And James, you said that they moved him back on the motorbike a bit, and he said to me that what that's done is just cost him a little bit of confidence in the front feel of the front end of the bike.
Yeah.
Even though they think it'll be obviously better for him in the long run.
He's quite a big lad, which means they reckon he was putting, from the data, he was putting too much weight on the front. It leans over the front, he's quite a heavy lad compared to many of the riders, and they moved him back for that reason. Maybe that's what it is. It is easy to hold the front there. You're going over a crest there and still on the brakes sometimes.
Dan Linfoot is in 3rd place. That would be some comeback for Honda Racing if they did manage to nail themselves a podium right off the bat. Behind him, we've got the neat little figure, the unobtrusive figure of Stuart Easton, being hounded by the 2 6-footers, Peter Hickman and Danny Buchan. Buchan moving live wire all over the place, and Josh Brooks getting into the swing of things now, closing in on Kianari. He's bringing Bridewell and Idden with him, so this is getting intriguing. And just behind them, Chris Walker, the 43-year-old Chris Walker, is also moving in. There's the B. Weiser Kawasaki team boss of both Walker and Buchan, Tommy Hill. And look at this, Peter Hickman tries to hold up Danny Buchan. Buchan tucks in on him as they head round to Hollywood. Hickman's not having it. He will not allow the big Essex boy through.
Who's tallest? Buchan or Hickman?
Buchan is 6'3". I reckon Hickey's an inch or two shorter than that, but Hickman can't hold him off at the old hairpin, and it's proper handbags at dawn, this stuff. Look at this. Slug it out, boys. We're on the 10th of 20 laps. We've actually, how dare it, there's a bit of cloud come over out there. Ellison leads the way, incidentally, at the front. Shaky Byrne with that new lap record in 2nd place. This is Linfoot running in 3rd on bike number 4, the black and red Honda. There is Danny Buchan having a boisterous first race of this season. He has been in British Superbikes briefly before, a couple of seasons ago, but he didn't make this kind of impact.
Actually, the first couple of rounds he did. Brands Archer was blindingly quick.
Yes, you're right.
Then jumped up a couple of times, lost a little bit of confidence, and by mid-season at Alton Park, he was just about enough. He was young, though, only 19, I think 18 when the season started.
So Buchan, who turns 22 later this month, as we see number 77 Ellison, number 67 Shaky Byrne, the 2 rival Kawasaki teams locking horns at the front, and this is a very, very tense confrontation. Halfway stage then, 10 laps complete out of 20.
Halfway stage, and I can tell you, looking at the tyre sheet, that Ellison has the SC0, the softer of the 2 options. So this is Ellison. Ooh. Well, whether that is an indication that the tyre is...
Does Shaky have
he's got the 1. He's got the SC1, the slightly harder tyre. You would expect, opposite to what you'd think, when the track temperature rises, you go with a softer tyre, and that'll make the softer tyre last longer. Maybe it's just not warm enough, and maybe that tyre of James Ellison's a softer one he's going to wear. We'll see.
So the 2 leaders then, the 2 vastly experienced leaders, of course, James Ellison running at the front on bike 77. 33 years old now, the Cumbrian. And just behind him is the Londoner man, originally born in South London, of course, now living down in Sittingbourne.
Look at Ellison's rear tyre. It is moving around a lot more than Shane Burns. You look at the faster corners especially.
Now, James, would the zero tyre wear a bit quicker now that we've got, for the first time this weekend, we've got a bit more warmth in the air and therefore in the track?
No, it should wear less. It should last longer on a warmer track. That's it. Comes into its own as the softer. It works opposite to what you think. But it does look to have a little bit more movement from the...
Is that Chris Walker?
It's either Walker or Buchan.
I'm judging by the walk, it's Buchan. I think it's Danny Buchan who's finally thrown away after a bit of a wild race. He's really got into some fisticuffs out there, and it looks like he's missing from that group, because there's Dan Linfoot, there's Stuart Easton, there's Peter Hickman, there's Josh Brooks. So definitely we've lost Danny Buchan on that lap. 12th lap of 20 then. Ellison, Byrne, Linfoot, Easton, Hickman, Brooks. This is the tail end of Buchan's exit.
Oh, big outside out of the S's, and he's, yeah.
Oh dear, Danny. Well, it looks like he's rolled and bounced quite well.
Yep.
Made a mess of those lovely leathers, mind. Well, he's certainly put in an invigorating dozen laps. He just needs to make it last about 8 laps longer.
You know, looking what we've seen so far, grip levels are still not consistent enough to know exactly what you've got at any point of this track. We've seen a lot of people falling off. Not unusual ways, but certainly it looks like it's still a little bit unpredictable to me. It's been quite cold all the way through the weekend, which means the trade term is a groove. You get little bits of rubber laid down on the track, and that gives it kind of consistency and predictability, and it just hasn't got that yet. Still catching people out.
These two are lapping just consistently, one in the early 30s, 130.1, 130.3 on their last laps. So it's super consistent riding from these guys. Linfoot on a 130.4, almost on their pace. Easton on a 130.6, so too Hickman. 130.2, I thought a 131.2, sorry, for Brooks. And Brooks has moved past Kianari into 6th place. Kianari is now 7th, splitting Brooks and Bridewell. Iden is now into 9th place with the departure, of course, of Danny Buchan. And that's a good battle going on. Chris Walker 3 seconds back in 10th. And then you look at Richard Cooper having a good ride on the Anvil tag higher Kawasaki.
He's been really impressive as Richard Cooper at various points this weekend. Just not really when it mattered.
Here's Tommy Bridewell muscling his way past on the Tyco BMW, past the build-based BMW. So for some reason, Kianari, who we really had down as a hot pre-race favourite, is going backwards.
And I don't understand that, because he definitely hasn't swapped tyres. He cannot run the SC0, never has been able to do it on any circuit, on any bike. So he's definitely on a 1, the tyre that he had all the way through qualifying and practice, the tyres he's done so many consistent fast laps on.
Look at these guys. There's number 9, Chris Walker. There's 47, Richard Cooper, just ahead of number 7, MotoGP rider for PBM last year. Michael Laverty making his very happy return to the paddock. Newly married, of course, to Chaz Davies' sister Jodie, so he's now brother-in-law of the aforementioned Welshman. And he slips down underneath. Number 47, Richard Cooper, gets the better of the former national Superstock champion. Behind them, incidentally, you can see Luke Mossey is running in 13th place. No, he's been overtaken now, I think, by Lee Bob Jackson. Jackson moves to 13th. Mossey is pushed back to 14th. Brock Parks gradually getting to grips with this kind of pretty florid racing. Number 2, Parks, is into the points at last in 15th. Robin Harms right behind him. Of course, they were former rivals for several years in World Supersport. The dashing Dane in 16th place. Josh Waters is 17th. Philip Backlund, the Swede, in 18th, ahead of Jason O'Halloran. Ian Hutchinson in the top 20.
It's strange, though, seeing people like Harms and Parks and kind of Laverty just into the point.
It's absolutely bonkers, isn't it? Meanwhile, the two old hands, the vastly experienced men in the BSB paddock, lead the way. Oh, and Jakob Smerts, more problems for the Lloyd's British Motor Rapido Ducati. And here comes Mackenzie as well, coming in, I think. Number 11, Taylor Mackenzie.
Yep.
They had problems with the Team WD-40 Kawasaki that meant that he couldn't get out for qualifying yesterday. Engine problem, had to change the engine.
Yeah, Taylor looking at this race really just like some more track time, and that's exactly what he needs. New to this class, he's moving up from Super Sport. Massive difference in how the bikes work and how much power you've got, and certainly looking at the back half of the season as when he needs to start learning his trade, not now.
Stuart Easton is just beginning to slide in there on Dan Linfoot and that third place. And at the same time, Josh Brooks is now hounding Peter Hickman for 5th. So Brooks beginning to get the feel of things. He said there was an awful lot to learn. He said the bike didn't feel quite like his own, and he didn't feel quite like himself yet. So across the line, this is the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th place men. Back to Josh Brooks on the Milwaukee Yamaha.
Most impressive man in the top 10 is Hickman, without any question. Never even saw the bike, never even threw his leg over it. No Spanish testing for him. He saw the bike for the first time at the beginning of this weekend. He said, hideously set up at first. Electronically, they've tried a lot of things. The engine didn't kind of... Somebody's off.
Stuart Easton.
Yeah.
Stuart Easton, the man you would least expect to run off track, has run off track, but he's hung on to it. Vast amount of experience as a schoolboy motocrosser has benefited him there.
We never saw that. I wondered if he went track. Oh no, he just completely missed the break in there. Did well to stop on that because this grass is still fairly wet.
Yeah. So that means Ellison, Byrne, Linfoot doesn't now have that constant presence behind him of Stuart Easton. He's got just a little smidgen of breathing space back to the battle between Hickman and Brooks, which is now for 4th place. And at the moment, let's just check out currently, of course, the fastest lap classification, remember, is the thing that decides the lineup on the grid for the second race. And it would put Shaky Byrne on pole, James Ellison second, where he started this race, Josh Brooks third. The second row would be Easton, Linfoot and Peter Hickman. The third row would be Kianari, Idden, who's going well, and Danny Buchan. And the fourth row, Bridewell, McConnell and Westmoreland. So even if you've spilled off, you can still get yourself a decent starting place for race 2. Dropping down through Hollywood and Craner curves again. What a magnificent section of track this is. Craner curves named after Derby garage owner Fred Craner, who used to race in the Isle of Man TT back in the 20s and 30s. As they drop down through it was certainly one of the most popular bits of track in world motorcycle racing. And Shaky Byrne is... I know Ellison loves riding at the front, doesn't he? And he can put up with this kind of pressure, but it must be pesky, really.
Ellison's done a really good job, I think, just setting a pace that he's happy with. That clearly Shane Byrne doesn't think he can pass him and clear off as he would have done. But it does look to me though Shane Byrne is lining something up. There's Kianari.
And Kianari now is really feeling the heat. Look at this, he's got Michael Laverty and Chris Walker and Richard Cooper right behind him. So Kianari, there must be some problem for the Japanese man.
There's got to be. I do not understand this if there isn't.
By the way, driver Norman Burgess has an old naval term for men of Chinese and Japanese origin. He calls them, I think it's joggers. He said, oh, it's that jogger, he's always quick.
I will be distancing myself from this latest piece of conversation.
Sorry, I didn't even imagine for one moment it was in any way offensive.
The opinions expressed by Mr. Bernickel are not necessarily the opinions held by others in the Eurosport crew.
Thanks, driver. Ellison, Byrne and Linfoot lead the way, first, second and third. Brooks is ahead of Hickman. Brooks moves into 4th place ahead of Hickman. Bridewell 6th, Christian Idden in 7th place. So Idden's having a good ride on the Bennett Suzuki, not so good for his teammate Josh Waters back in 17th, just outside the points. And Parks has been nudged out of the points again into 16th place by Lee Jackson, and Robin Harm's making progress, James.
And you look at Chris Walker down there in 8th, and then you look who's behind him and you think, yeah, he does deserve still it, even though we keep saying, well, it could be his last year, he's now 90 years old, but he deserves his place here, there he is.
And here he is, ripping smartly ahead of Laverty and Cooper. Kianari now just getting sucked back into the pack, so not making Keogh's main concern when we talked to him beforehand was not falling off, but I don't think he expected to be going quite as steadily.
Not at all. Looking at the timing screen, Brooks is on a bit of a mission now. He is closing down on 3rd place man Linfoot, who needs to watch out there.
Chianari's fastest lap, James, as we see Michael Laverty carve his way past Chris Walker. Chianari's fastest lap, 1:30.2. He's currently doing 1:33.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
Not
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Dropping down the hill then, Chris Walker. Now the next target that young Richard Cooper has is Chris Walker. Well, I say young Richard Cooper, of course. He's been around a long time. It's just that he still looks like 15.
He does as well. Is he shaving yet?
Anvil High Attack Racing Kawasaki's Richard Cooper just in behind Chris Walker there on the black and yellow B-Wiser Kawasaki behind them. Number 23, Chianari, has Stuart Easton right behind him, recovering from that excursion. And here, look at this, Robin Harms is really beginning to gallop now, but he just overcooks it going into Redgate. And as he went into Redgate, he got the better of Luke Mossey, but the tall lad from Cambridge, from Royston in Cambridgeshire, immediately retook the advantage.
I've had a text from Cal Fogarty. He says, I didn't realise it was World Superbike. He's turned his telly on. He says, how many foreigners in it?
And Robin Harms, and Jack Kennedy, the Dubliner, has retired the second of the WD-40 bikes. That's a shame. And Robin Harms is simply not letting Mossey have it here. He's just carving him up at every opportunity, taking huge, sweeping Super Sport 600 lines. Number 27. Great ride by Robin Harms on the Motordex Performance First Racing BMW. And he is now, from a poor start, properly pushing his way into the points.
Well, Robin Harms can ride a bike, there's no question. It was finished as well up as he has in the World Supersport Championship can ride.
Lee Jackson then, number 14, is battling now with Luke Mossey just behind that distinctive black and red bike BMW. And there's number 2, Brock Parks. Behind Brock Parks, we've got Waters, Backlund, O'Halloran, Hutchinson. Back to 20th place. There's O'Halloran in black and red, streaking up the hill out of the Melbourne Loop. Meanwhile, back at the front, just a little bit of space appeared. The last lap, 1:30. There's nothing in it on the last lap, but Ellison's just got a few inches there.
Yeah, would you believe this? He has. That is a reasonable gap. Now, that is a gap instead of just one that'll disappear at any point.
James, I hadn't realised we're on the 19th lap of 20. That's extraordinary. So rapidly has it been such a thrilling race. Look at this. Chris Walker dishes it back to Michael Laverty. Runs a bit wide at the bottom. Laverty goes around the outside of him. Walker won't let him through. Cuts it across the curb and determinedly hangs on to 9th place, to 8th place.
Well, whatever it is he's got, he's still got it.
Meanwhile, Linfoot now under real pressure from number 25, Josh Brooks. Brooks, twice a former runner-up in this championship. A third-place man in World Supersport is now putting big pressure on the North Yorkshireman.
Yeah, you can see that from the timing screen that Josh Brooks has been closing in now for the last couple of laps.
So Honda Racing, could their dream, at least part dream, comeback of a podium place first time out be under threat? It certainly is. Josh Brooks on that brand new R1 is seeking a third place finish. Ellison crosses the line. He's 0.486 of a second ahead of Shaky Byrne. That's shrunk already into Redgate. And this is the battle. There's a battle for the lead. There's a battle for third place.
Linfoot needs a really clean lap now. It looks to me as though Josh Brooks is slightly better on the brakes and Linfoot is slightly better out of the corner. So, no.
On a perfect day here at Donington Park, Ellison, Byrne, Linfoot, Brooks, Hickman, Bridewell are your top 6. And you can see that Shaky Byrne, as you would expect, is putting in a last lap charge. So too is Josh Brooks. Never ever lets off, does he? The Australian is right there with Dan Linfoot and preparing for an assault on the brakes, no doubt.
I think that if Brooks can get past Linfoot, I don't think Linfoot will get back at him because it looks to me like Brooks is slightly better on the brakes into the slow portion that they're coming into now.
So the Honda needs a really good exit to Coppice here. He's got to drive it out onto the old Dunlop straight. But look at that. How tight is that? What on earth? How close do you want it? He's almost kissing tyres as they come out of Coppice. He's going to try and get down on the inside. He forces the Yamaha through. Linfoot can't do anything about that. But he cuts it tight on the exit. Now has he got the drive over the hill? Because as they drop down through the Melbourne Loop, that's where it's going to matter. At the front, it could be a victory, would you believe, for James Ellison and JG Speedfit. But Brooks gets it wide. Linfoot tries to cut back in. Up the hill to Goddard's. And the first time out of the JG Speedfit colours, the Kawasaki team wins it for GB Moto. Linfoot cuts underneath Goddard's, tries try gets the better of... Oh, Brooks, he goes elbow to elbow and just hangs on by a whisker across the line. But it's victory for Mark Smith-Halverson and his GB Motor team under their JG Speedfit new colours for 2015. Walker crosses the line just ahead of Laverty and Cooper. What an astonishing ahead of them, by the way, Hickman, Bridewell and Idden, 5th, 6th and 7th, and look at the rest of them pouring across the line. But at the front, JG Speedfit and James Ellison, well, he's been super confident throughout testing, and he's told us all along he was going to be running right at the front, James, and I think now we need to believe it.
The thing is, he said that for the last couple of years and had really bad luck, but that's his dominant performance with pressure that I've seen from James Ellison, probably ever.
And a terrific array of sun-baked torsos and tattooed torsos. They're out in the spring sunshine here at Donington Park, enjoying that first race of the season. Shaggy Byrne in second place. James Ellison will be pretty well chuffed with that race win. So behind them, Linfoot just edged out of that third place, and the Milwaukee Yamaha team will be pleased with that, because as will lovely Amy, the girlfriend of Josh Brooks, because he was so far back in the early stages, it didn't look like he was going to put any kind of showing on. But of course, he is a man who comes on strongly in the second part of a race.